More on the GOP's tax agenda. I want to bring in Gene Ross, Senior Fellow at American Progress, also Alex Brill, Senior Fellow at American Enterprise Institute. Does this have a chance of getting even through, by the way, Gene and Alex, before we even get started?
It certainly has no chance of getting through in its current form. It is a veritable grab bag, as Mr. Frank was saying in the introduction, of provisions that have different levels of support, but it's an extremely costly proposal and certainly has no chance of moving through the Senate in its current form.
Is there any piece of it you like?
Is there any part that I like? I think you have to look at it in totality and take it in the context of the debt limit discussion that we just came out of, which, if you care about the deficit, then we certainly shouldn't be talking about cutting taxes right now.
Alex, what do you say to that idea? We talk about the deficit and cutting the deficit all the time, and then here we are.
Well, I think that we do need to be concerned about the deficit. I think that that aspects of what came through the committee yesterday, the House Ways and Means Committee, run in contrast to the deal to reduce the deficit that was enacted into law about 2 weeks ago. But that's not to say that any tax changes that are favorable to taxpayers should forever and always be off the table. Quite the opposite. I think that these business tax changes that came out of the committee are well-intentioned. I have some quibbles with them. I think they should have been permanent, not temporary. But the idea of trying to find ways to lower the cost of new investment, that's what these provisions do. Bonus expensing, the change in R&D is going to tax policy is going to encourage more R&D. These are desirable and, quite frankly, broadly speaking, bipartisan policy agendas. And I would suspect there'd be a little bit more support if they did get a vote in the Senate from Democrats. The other thing that happened yesterday in the committee is a change in the standard deduction, a proposal to increase the standard deduction. And that's a policy that I don't support. I don't think is a good idea. And the reason for that does have a lot to do with the cost of that policy.
Right. Hey, Alex, before I get back to Gene, let me just ask, I want to know if both of you are in agreement about one thing, which is that ultimately we as a country need more revenue. How we get that revenue, we can debate. But that we need more revenue. And if we don't decide that if all the sides don't think we need more revenue, how hard it ultimately is to even get to a place of some form of an agreement?
Sure. Critically important question. So at the moment, we have relatively high revenues by historical measures. That's just a simple fact. Looking forward
high
in
revenues
time,
by historical measures in the United States, low revenues on a per GDP basis, on a relative basis to other developed countries, just contextually?
To other countries that have other fiscal policies, yes. Within the United States, we have relatively high revenues as a share of GDP. Going forward, we will have higher expenditures. And to meet those higher expenditures, we will need more revenues. So, yes, on the long term, we need to find a way to find more revenue in the system.
Gene, then, of course, the debate is, and I know you want more revenue, the question is how you get there.
And again, let's go back and look where the tax cuts that we're talking about today came from. They came as offsets, so-called pay-fors for the 2017 tax cuts, the corporate rate reduction. If you believe that the provisions we're talking about now are good public policy, then pay for them by repealing that reduction in the corporate rate. Yes, we need more revenue. If you look back at the history of our deficit trajectory over since the Bush tax cuts in 2021, tax cuts have been the primary, almost 60% of the increase in the debt ratio in the country is due to tax cuts. That's the heart of the problem, and they need to be on the table.
Gene, before we go, one last thing for you.
Need to be on the table.
Talking about 2017 and either rolling things back or not, and this is why it becomes political. Where do you stand on the SALT deduction?
I think the SALT deduction was not a bad pay for the changes we saw in 2017. It predominantly benefits the highest income households. That may be one area that Alex and I agree on.
Hey, Alex,
Okay,
just hold up, Alex. Just philosophically, I mean, from the AEI, I mean, let's get a pair here. Let's talk about like an AEI should be talking. We have more revenue in the history of the world. Go around the country. Does it look like that revenue is being well spent? Do you see potholes anywhere? Do you think roads are looking good? Does it look like the government is effective at spending all this revenue? Is that the answer? Let's double how much we spend and things are suddenly going to get better? Or are we doing something ineffectively?
I don't think so. On the other side of the ledger, on the outlay side of the ledger, I don't think that we are spending money wisely and efficiently, or not as wisely and efficiently as we could. And I think that we need to think, not just that we need to, we have to. We have to think about ways to spend less money in the future. There is no tax policy that one could design that would balance the budget in the long run.
All right, there you go.
The projections are out of control. And so there has to be spending reforms. But we're also an aging society, and I do think that we need to think about the changes in our society. And so revenues are part of the solution. Spending cuts are the biggest part of the solution.
But you might have better growth if you